If you are interested in communicating, if you are interested in making a difference, if you are interested in finding a career that can give you back personally as much as you give into it, if not more, this is the industry to do it.
How has it been since you've stepped away from your role?
Uh, busy. Sorry, my dog is
It's okay, my cats are breaking in the room.
It's sort of hard to say because I'm still doing some work with the REB.
Mhm.
And so that's great.
Mhm.
And I have some personal issues going on, and so that's taking a lot of time. So I'm busy.
It's good to be busy. It's good to slow down too. So you were in some capacity of broadcast sales for what, 50 years, 50 or more, starting in the 70s. So what initially brought you to sales and then from there into being into broadcasting sales?
Well, I was never in sales. And my first radio job was in broadcast sales. And I didn't even realize that that was a career. And I worked for an ad agency, and it's sort of a long story. But my first job was doing direct sales at a local radio station. That was my first radio job. And, I didn't go into it thinking it was a great career.
Mhm.
I just went into it. I never thought I would ever be in a sales position. Uh, and yet once I got in, I got the radio bug.
Mhm.
So as I have continued my career, the reality is all of us, no matter what we do, are in some form of sales. So whether you're on the content side or the marketing side, the digital side, the sales side, it doesn't matter. The on-air side, indirectly, we're all in sales.
Right. So
You're
what,
in sales.
hmm?
You're in sales.
Right. And I never thought that I would ever be interested in anything about sales, but the more that I worked, the more I realized that you can't avoid it.
Well, the whole process of understanding the needs and of that, so that could be an advertiser, it could be your coworker, it could be your boss, it could be your listening audience, and understanding their needs and providing them or filling those needs. We all do that. And so, as I said, indirectly, that's some form of sales for whatever any of us do.
Right. And what about broadcasting really captivated you after you started?
Well, I immediately recognized the power that it has. And what I mean by power is that it has the ability to immediately affect hundreds, if not thousands of people at the same time. And whether that be entertaining, whether that be informing, whether it be educating, whether it be providing a partnership or companionship, that's what attracted me to the business. I realized that you can have such an impact in a very short period of time.
Mhm.
And it's really, truly, if you allow yourself to open your mind up to it, it's very meaningful work.
Yeah. What do you think has been different from when you started to now about, I guess, brought the industry, but also just the public's relationship with the industry.
Well, technology has changed everything. You know, how people connect with their favorite radio stations has changed. How we do our jobs has changed. Look, when I started, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have cell phones. You know, there's a lot of things that we take for granted now that are just, you just have it. We didn't have any of those tools. We had a dial-up telephone. We didn't even have push-button phones. We had to dial on the telephone to call someone. And so technology has changed everything. We had typewriters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just very different. And so we have all these incredible tools available to us, and they've become so much more cost efficient that everyone in some shape or form can afford to have these tools at their fingertips, which enables us to service whatever our issues are or whatever we need to do. It allows us to do our jobs much better, more efficiently, much smarter. It's exciting. It's wonderful.
Do you have any imaginations of what the future of that could look like?
I should be asking you that question because you're the change agent. You know, for every new person that comes into the industry, you bring a new, fresh approach, a new, fresh outlook. And by reaching out to our audience and understanding what they're using and use it, and how we can in tandem use those products and services at the same time, you know, that's the future. The future is exciting. And, you know,
Mm-hmm.
there are people who say, oh, I don't like change. Well, you look at how much everything has changed. The business is day and night to when I first got into it. And it will continue to change. The difference is the change is moving at a much faster pace today than ever.
Right.
So staying up on it and testing things, you know, everybody's talking about AI. Someone asked me yesterday, you know, how did I think it was going to affect everything? And I said, I don't know. I don't think anyone knows,
Yeah.
but we're all testing it and we're trying to figure out how to use it effectively and efficiently and how to make us all smarter and better. It's scary at times, but we have to keep our minds open to all these new tools that are available to us because we can't stop them.
Mm-hmm. What advice do you have to anyone who's resistant to those changes and wants
Get out of the way because it's coming.
Yeah.
We're never going to go back. And if, you know, anyone who says they don't like change, change makes you uncomfortable. It makes us all uncomfortable. But as you know, I've said many times and I've heard it said, we have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we
So,
just have to try it. Because if we don't, someone else is going to.
right. And for the past 12 years, you've been leading the RAB in tackling those changes and navigating all of the changes of the broadcast industry and trying to assist stations and markets small and large. What decisions led you to taking on more of management roles and also moving away from being in, say, a broadcast station and being into more of the organizations that assist the stations?
Well, technically, I haven't worked directly for a radio station in many, many, many years. And the last radio station I worked for, I was fired. And I didn't want to move. And I had moved several times. And if I wanted to stay 100% on the station side. I could have easily, I was offered jobs, but I had to pick up and move again. And I didn't want to do that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I moved into the national sales arena. And so I felt very connected to the business because our clients were local radio stations.
Mm-hmm.
And national selling was very different when I was doing it versus the way it is now. And so stations had multiple choices of partners that they could work with. Now there are much fewer choices for a station on the national side. So it was highly competitive when I was doing it. And you know, my career just sort of happened. One thing led to another, led to another. So I've been very fortunate. I've worked really hard. I've had a lot of luck, but I've
Mm-hmm.
learned how to take advantage of that luck. And, you know, I can't say, you know, nothing was handed to me, but things just sort of fell into place for me, and I took advantage of opportunities. And I think that's all anyone can do, is just be open to an opportunity. Always keep a door open. And I learned that very early in my career. You
Mm-hmm.
know, don't shut the door. You never know what's around the corner.
Have you ever looked back and thought about going back to a smaller level, or since you've been at a national level, it's just
Absolutely. I've thought of it many times, but I've always felt like a local broadcaster, even on a national side, because no matter what I've done, whether I was on the publishing side or the national side, I was still advocating for local broadcasting
mm-hmm.
and fiercely defending the right and the success of that local broadcaster. So, you know, when anyone ever asks me what I do, I always say, oh, I'm in radio. Well, what do you do in
Mm-hmm.
radio? You know, I'm in local radio.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always felt that way.
And after you did take on the role of being the president and CEO of the RAB, what has been some of your most fulfilling moments of serving the communities of radio stations?
Well, first of all, broadcasters are an amazing group of people. I think we have great people in all size markets all across the country. People that are passionate about the business. And, you know, I really haven't worked in any industry, any other industry for long periods of time. But, you know, most people that I know or have worked with like what they do. And not everybody likes their job, and not everybody is happy in their career. And yet broadcasters, we're a goofy bunch. We're not my term. I think I heard Kim Guthrie say it the first time. We're a scrappy bunch, and we jump right in and we roll our sleeves up. And when there's an opportunity, we jump right in and we want to help, we want to save, we want to be better, we want to be smarter. And so just working with individuals like that, what a joy, and how lucky are we?
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you identified of where you could help broadcasters, big and small? And what do you think in the future that we have room to work on?
Well, I want us to always remember, even with all the new technology and with all of the ways that our listeners are connecting with us, we are still a local business. And that's what separates us from all of the competition. And the competition is fierce and it's deep. And, you know, when I first got in, the competition were other radio stations, and that's not our competition. We would listen to other radio stations, and if we heard a spot, that we didn't have, we ran over to that client and said, you know, I've heard you on this radio station and that's great, but let me share my audience with you.
Right.
That's not, we don't do that anymore because that's not our competition.
Mm-hmm.
And to be the leaders in our markets and to be involved with our cities and our states, that's what separates us. And when you look at where the business comes from, the majority of our revenue still comes from local businesses and services. And we need to focus on that and remember that and remind ourselves the importance of super serving the markets that we're in. And with all the new technology and with all the easier ways to do things and all the sophistication, I still think we have to remember that we are strong local businesses that need to focus on super serving the markets that we're in.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that, what do you think is causing those issues that are present where it's kind of blocking out what the purpose of being a local broadcaster is and leading to being distracted by all the noise of everything else?
Well, there's always going to be noise. And most of the noise is dealt with at very high levels. And so, you know, if you want to get caught up in the noise, that's your issue. It's like a personal relationship. It's like how you use social media. If you want to get caught up in it, you can get sucked into it and be on TikTok or Instagram, or depending on what demographic you're in, Facebook, you could be on social media for hours and hours and hours and hours.
Right. Yeah.
But the reality is we know that that's not reality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's where dreams are made. It's maybe we'll all be younger, smarter, prettier, thinner, who knows? But it's not really going to change our life today. And yet it's easy to get distracted. And so noise is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want to get distracted, you know, if you have a dog and you say squirrel, they're gone. And there are people like that. But if we just stay focused and say, why are we in this business? What are we trying to accomplish? What are our goals? How do we work together to achieve our goals? How are we going to measure success? And you stay focused. Look, it is frustrating. It's a difficult business, but everything is difficult today. The cost of money
Mm-hmm.
is more expensive. The competition is there's more competition than ever. There's so many distractions. There's so many, the consumer is being bombarded with messages no matter where they go or what they listen to or what they're watching. And how do we break through in a meaningful way to become a preferred connection for that audience?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I believe we need to focus. And that's where, you know, I love younger generations who really do care about community. They want to do good.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be involved. They want to have a better world. They want to have cleaner water. They want to have fresher air. Well, what better way to take that local megaphone and take your personal passions and involve them in some way in those local businesses? You know, you can't do that necessarily, you know, working at an insurance company.
Mm-hmm.
You can certainly do that in the healthcare field, but, you know, again, there's an industry that desperately needs people, and there are so many angels who work in healthcare, but they have so many issues in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many jobs open. It's hard to fill these jobs. And, you know, I could go off on a tangent on the healthcare industry because they've got bigger issues than we have.
Right.
So
So what advice do you have to the young people who have taken an interest in the industry to navigate the noise and navigate knowing how to achieve what they want to, despite the challenges that the industry is facing?
Well, first of all, recognize every industry is facing challenges. Everything is fair game. So if you are interested in communicating, if you are interested in making a difference, if you are interested in finding a career that can give you back personally as much as you give into it, if not more, this is the industry to do it. And what better way to get your foot in the door? Because, when you first start your career, very few of us have any idea what we're going to do. We may think we do. At the GAB, Radio Talent Institute, that was in Athens, Georgia, a few weeks ago, one of our speakers asked such a great question of the students and said, how many of your parents really like what they do for a living? Not everyone raised their hand. And look, we all know people who have jobs, they don't really love it. And when you're 40 or 40 plus, it's harder to change careers because you may have a family, you may have children, you may have a mortgage, you have higher bills, and you wake up one day and you don't like what you're doing, but you can't just say, I quit, I'm gonna go try something new. But when you're starting out and you open that door and you see what's available to you, and if you can get involved by asking questions, by listening, by observing, by watching, by providing new solutions to opportunities, that's what makes this business so exciting. And I can't think of another industry. People say, well, I want video. There's video working in audio. I want social media, where there's social media needs involved in working in audio. I want to be a graphic designer. We need it in working in audio. I want to be a podcaster. Well, you know what? We need that. So all of these sort of creative outlets, they all can be used. Now, granted, there aren't as many jobs today as there once was, but for people that want to make a difference, for people that are open to learning, to rolling up their sleeves, to volunteering, to trying different things, I cannot say enough about the opportunities that are available in this business.
And obviously the RB takes a really great interest in helping young people figure those things out and learning about themselves as much as they're learning about the industry through the National Radio Talent System. So what benefits does it pose to students to take part in a program like the Radio Talent Institute?
Well, there's really nothing else like it. What we guarantee is that in a very short period of time, about 6 days, and it's intensive, but a student will have the opportunity to physically meet, make eye contact with, shake a hand, listen to a presentation between 30 and 40 successful people working in the industry today, covering all aspects of the business. So it's opening the door to say, here are the possibilities. And you're hearing stories, how they got into the business, what their area of business is, what they do on a day-to-day basis. And it's a very different experience than going to college. In that, college is a great experience, but these are people doing these jobs today. And you're hearing the reality of what goes on, how it works, how to get your foot in the door, what are potential employers looking for? Gosh, we cover just a myriad of topics. But at the end of it, I can see the light bulbs go off, that people go, wow, I never knew this. I didn't think about that. This was a new opportunity for me. So many of these students come in thinking, everyone says, oh, I'm going to be on air. I'm going to be the next great radio personality. It's a lot harder than it sounds.
Yeah.
And even though in school we all have an opportunity to possibly be on air or do something on air or work with our college radio station, when you're in the professional world, not everyone makes it on air. And so the reality is you may like being on air, but you hear stories of very successful broadcasters who started on air and very quickly realized they weren't even that good. But then they found other things that allowed them to use their creative juices to participate and make a difference. And so, as I like to say, and we say at the REB, we don't guarantee a job to anyone. But what we do guarantee these students is we introduce them to potential employers. We help them open a door, and we hopefully give them some tools that they can use as they embark on their first job in the industry. And we follow them. We care about it. And, someone gave me a chance in my 20s, and we need to do the same thing. We need to pay it back. And it doesn't matter, male, female, the color of your skin, whatever you believe or feel or how you live your life, the industry welcomes everyone with open arms, and diversity is a key because our audience are diverse. And we want to be able to reflect the needs of our audience. And so the more diverse our staffs are, the more diverse our programming is, our content is, the services we provide. So, we're a giant melting pot available, and it doesn't matter the market.
Do you feel that you ever face challenges getting not just into the industry, but just getting to the level where you are in the industry?
Every day.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it sound like it was easy. It was not easy. When I got in at time, there were very few females. We were treated differently. There were some very dark times for me. But I had a good support system around me. I'm strong. It made me stronger. I tried to keep a sense of humor. I still see some things that I don't like, but I see that in every walk of life. There are let's just say not everything is puppy dogs and roses, but if you want something, all I can say is you got to be true to yourself at the end of the day.
Do you have any advice for specifically women in your case, but just anyone who feels that they aren't thought of as highly in consideration for filling those positions, and then it being in that position of how to approach demanding
I would
respect?
highly encourage everyone to find a mentor. And it doesn't matter their gender, but find someone that you can talk with and that you can share some of your challenges, your issues, share what your goals are, because a good mentor will help you figure out those goals and help you navigate how to reach those goals in the most positive way possible. And, the other thing is you'd be surprised, you might find someone and say, well, like this person to mentor me, and they'd say, well, they won't mentor me because they don't know me. You'd be surprised. If there was someone that you were interested in having a mentor, reach out to them. Because they may surprise you and say, I'd be honored to work with you and to help you and to listen to you. And it's always great to have someone outside of where you work. Now, as you work, you're going to have mentors within the companies that you work for, but to have a mentor that you don't work with, and a mentor sometimes could be a relative, a friend, it doesn't matter, but I think it's really important that we all have someone that we can talk to and trust, because trust is a big issue.
Did you have one of those mentors?
It took me a while. I've had many mentors over the years, but I still, I'll talk to anybody. I'm laughing. I have a bonus family and I have a grandson. He just graduated college. But a few years ago, he thought he was going to, he wanted to work in a gaming industry. And there's this big convention in LA for gamers. And I didn't know anything about it. And I said to him, at the time they were living in Illinois, and I said, I tell you, and I was living in LA. I said, I'll come stay with us and you and I'll we'll go. And again, I didn't know what I was walking into. And you're in line for everything. He was overwhelmed because it was just giant convention. But we'd be standing in line and I'd look at someone's badge and maybe they were a Microsoft. It didn't matter. They were all these big companies. And I'd ask them, well, tell me what you do. How did you get your first job? And my grandson said, you'll talk to anyone. I said, I will talk to anyone. I said, because all they can say to me is, no, I'm not going to talk to you.
Right.
And that's how you learn. You ask a lot of questions and you listen, and you just have to be open to continuing to learn and to listen, to ask questions, to follow up. And people remember that.
And now that you have stepped out of your role as president and CEO, what is it exactly that you do with the RAB now?
So I guess you would say I'm a consultant to the RAB. Primarily, my two projects that I'm working on, one are the National Radio Talent Institutes. That is a passion of mine, of course, bringing in new people into the industry. And during my tenure there, I'm the one that acquired or took to the board that we acquire the National Radio Talent System. So it's really personally important to me to see that succeed. Another project I'm very involved with is a training program we called Rising Through the Ranks. And it's a program specifically for women who work in radio. And we take 25 women. That happens in August. So that process right now, the application date actually just closed. And we're going through the applications now. And that's only a 2-day program, but it is very intense. And it is, again, I walk away and I've said to everyone, if you're ever feeling down about the business or think, I don't know what the future is, you sit in one of these meetings for 2 days and you come out energized, refreshed, excited, and you know that the future's in good hands. So again, it's developing people, and that's something that's really important to me.
Do you ever imagine that you'll fully relinquish your role in broadcasting? I've kind of noticed a trend that it's kind of hard to say goodbye.
I hope not. I knew when it was time for me to step down at the RAB. Not everyone ever knows that, but for me, as much as I loved my job and I loved what I did and I loved the work, I just knew it was time for me to step down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fortunate that I was in a position that I could make that decision, and someone didn't make it for me and show me the door. So as long as I can continue to make a contribution at the RAB, I hope that they will continue, uh, to utilize my services, and one day they won't, and that's okay too. So,
Mm-hmm. And do you have any hopes, short term, or I guess short term and long term, for the broadcast industry?
well, obviously I want the industry to grow and to thrive. And I want people to feel good about being in this industry. I know there's some people who think that it's not a growth industry. Revenue has been a challenge. Uh, Revenue is a challenge in a lot of areas. But I think for those people who really focus in on what that license is about, and work hard and stay focused, I think there'll always be a business. And
Mm-hmm.
audio consumption overall is at an all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're now over what, 3 million different podcasts?
Oh,
Uh,
probably more.
Probably more. It could be 4 million. As I like to say, my mailman even has a podcast. So everyone has something they want to say, and they're using audio as a way to do it. And we have these 14,000 plus signals across the country that I hope we can continue to use. I think the NAB has a lot of challenges because, we have rules and regulations that make it sometimes challenging for us to compete in the environment, because some of them, some of our competition doesn't have the regulation that we have. And that's not necessarily correct. So I think the NAB tries to focus in on as many issues as they can to make the regulations for a broadcaster as streamlined as possible. As the competition has changed, our world has changed, and we have to make sure that doing business in 2024, it's very different than it was in the year 2000.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have to adapt with the times and move forward and be future thinking. And that's where bringing young people in and trying new things. We're not going to win at everything. We're going to fail at some things, but let's try it. Let's challenge ourselves. And I
Mm-hmm.
hope people will continue to do that.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time to me and talking about your career.
It was my pleasure, Hannah.